This day in sports history. And welcome back to another edition of This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. You can find more info, more podcasts, and we're doing a giveaway of Sterling Roastery Coffee at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's November 20th, and I hope you like college football because I have got a show jam-packed with wild, crazy, and controversial endings to college football games over the past 60 years or so. So go ahead, pull that lever on your lazy boy, sit back, relax, and settle in. This one is going to be quite a ride. Let's start with what happened on this day in 1971, in year 3 of the 10-year war between Ohio State and Michigan. The Bo versus Woody battles from 1969 through 1978 became known as the 10-year war later on, when we could take a retrospective look back and admire the incredible games during this decade of Big Ten football between these two teams. Now, typically, a trip to the Rose Bowl was the reward for the winner of this game, with national championship implications at stake as well. That was not exactly the case with this edition, though. Ohio State had a down year, largely attributable to injuries. 9 Buckeye starters had been lost to injury or illness throughout the year, and they kind of limped into their final game of the season unranked with a 6-3 record. So they were not going to the postseason at all. On the other side, Michigan was definitely going to the Rose Bowl. They were ranked number 3 in the country with an unblemished 10-0 record. They were mostly healthy, and they were really good. They led the nation in points scored and allowed the fewest yards of any team in the country. They led the Big Ten in rushing, total offense, and they had the stingiest defense in the league, too. So, with all of that going on, this was supposed to be a Wolverine rout. But Woody Hayes always prepared just a little bit harder and a little bit longer for that school up north. This edition was played in Ann Arbor in front of 104,120 people. At the time, it was the largest crowd ever to watch a football game. That large throng of people were a bit quiet, though, as the teams went to the locker room at halftime after watching Michigan put up just 3 points. Ohio State had not scored any, but Woody had them right where he liked them, in a near stalemate. But he still needed to find a way to score some points. His offense was not able to move the ball against the best defense in the country. Ohio State would only amass 138 total yards in this game. They needed something special to happen. With time winding down in the third quarter, the Buckeyes finally found a way to the end zone. Here's Tom Hemingway and Dave McKay calling the game for WUOM that day.
Barry Dotsauer will be punting for the Wolverines. He just gets it away as he spun that one up over Charlie Beecroft. It's fielded by Tom Campana back at the 15 to the 20, the 25, the 30, the 35, the 40. He may be gone. He's got Dotsauer to beat, and he's around him to the 30, to the 25, to the 20, to the 15, to the 10. He's going in. Touchdown, Ohio State.
The PAT gave Ohio State the 7-3 lead. The Buckeyes' defense kept stifling the Michigan offense. Schembechler, a part of the Woody Hayes coaching tree, stuck with his run game, and it kept getting stopped. And with both teams running the football almost exclusively, the clock was continuously running. Time started to run short for the Wolverines. With 7 minutes to play in the game, Michigan got the ball back, and they knew they were running out of opportunities. This had to be the drive. On a 4th and 1, Michigan ran a dive play to pick up just enough to keep the drive alive at the Buckeye 23 with a little more than 2 minutes left. It was then that the Wolverines found the crack in the Ohio State defensive wall. With the Buckeyes loading the box with their Omaha defense of 10 men within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, Michigan QB Tom Sippa audibled to a sweep around the end.
Ready for the snap. He takes it on the option play, heads down the line of scrimmage, switches back to Taylor on the right side of the 20. He got blocking out front of the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Michigan!
Michigan led 10-7. Now, what this game became known for happened next. Under 2 minutes left, Ohio State had a long way to go and a short time to get there. The conservative Hayes now had to throw the football, and it cost him.
This time it is fake. Lamka is back to pass. He fires it, and it is intercepted. Intercepted by Tom Darden. Holy mackerel, Tom Darden has come up with his second interception, and he's not giving the football up. The Ohio State Buckeyes are screaming that Darden interfered with a receiver. Woody Hayes is out on the field. Woody is following the official up the field. He is not giving up. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes after him.
And yeah, nobody would have really been surprised, though this was really the start of the observable Hayes and his volatility. So, as you heard there on that call, Hayes ran out onto the field and he got in the face of soon-to-be well-known NFL ref Jerry Markbright, screaming for him to call pass interference on that play. Instead, Markbright threw the flag on Hayes for unsportsmanlike conduct. Tempers flared on the field a few plays later, and after another 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty was being marked off on Ohio State, Hayes' volcano completely blew.
15-yard penalty is walked off against Ohio State, and Woody Hayes has grabbed the first down marker. He's thrown it onto the field. He's ripped up the chain. I'll tell you, the guy running the chain over there, he's grabbed another one. He's throwing that onto the field.
The game ended soon after. Michigan had won 10-7. Woody refused to talk to anybody after the game, not his assistants, not his players, not the new Big Ten commissioner Wayne Duke, who'd just taken over and was attending his first game in his new role, and certainly not the media. But that certainly did not stop the media from writing about the on-field immolation. Hayes was called shameful, a clown act, a raving lunatic, a horse's ass, revolting, and many suggested that it was time to quit. But here's the thing. Because of the call he felt that was missed at the end, Hayes was one of the first, if not the first, to suggest replay review. Next week at a luncheon, Woody, who was still steaming mad about that bad call, said, "We can have electronic machines on the sidelines to make things right. If a coach wants a replay, it should cost him a timeout. If the call was right on the field, then penalize him 5 yards." It would not be until 2006, 35 years after this game, that the NCAA would finally take his advice and incorporate instant replay review into the game. So from the 10-year war, let's go to the Holy War. On this day in 1993, Boston College walk-on kicker David Gordon ended the national championship dreams of Notre Dame. BC came into this game still stinging from the beating that the Irish had put on them the previous season. A 54-7 rout in Boston in 1992 was embarrassing, but most of the Eagles players felt like the Irish rubbed their noses in it while they did it. The Eagles jumped out to a lead in this edition and led 38-17 at the start of the fourth quarter. Notre Dame had national championship aspirations. They'd beaten Florida State the week prior and then voted number 1 in both polls. A win by the Irish meant a trip to the Fiesta Bowl and a shot at the title. The Irish stormed back, scoring 3 touchdowns and adding a 2-point conversion along the way to take a 39-38 lead with a minute to play. BC quarterback Glenn Foley led the Eagles, did what he could with the time he had, and set up a 41-yard field goal try with 5 seconds left. Field goal kicker David Gordon was a walk-on for the Eagles. He'd missed a game winner earlier in the year at Northwestern from 40 yards out. Add to that, he'd never kicked a field goal at any point during this season from 41 yards or longer. Staring into the face of touchdown Jesus, Gordon lined up his left-footed kick. It was not the prettiest of kicks. Gordon called it a knuckleball afterwards, and it initially looked like it was going to swing wide right, but the kick straightened up and had enough distance and went through the uprights. And Boston College, the 18-point underdog coming in, stunned Notre Dame in the Holy War. The Irish were relegated to the Cotton Bowl and finished the year ranked second, behind Florida State. This episode is brought to you by Sterling Roastery. When the morning's turning colder, there is no better way to start your day than with a cup of coffee brewed with fresh roasted beans from Sterling Roastery. With the same care and dedication they take with their soap, the Sterling folks roast their beans sourced from around the world with great care and expertise. Check out their full line of beans at sterlingsoap.com. And right now, you can win one of 3 $50 Sterling Roastery gift cards. Use it for yourself or as a gift to a friend. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways to enter today. That's sportshistorynetwork.com stanford.edu/giveaways for your chance to win a Sterling Roastery gift card. On this day in 1982, the Stanford Band stepped on the field a bit prematurely. It is known as the play, though that does kind of imply that something was drawn up and executed to perfection. Instead, this was chaos that just happened to end in a touchdown. Cal-Stanford is a rivalry that is simply known as the Big Game. The rivalry started in 1892, and they started playing for the Axe in 1899. John Elway had never played in a postseason bowl game. A win against Cal here in the final game of the regular season would secure that bowl bid for the Cardinal. Elway did all he could to get them there. He led Stanford down to the Cal 18-yard line to set up the go-ahead field goal. And when Stanford kicker Mark Harmon kicked the 35-yarder with 4 seconds left, it put Stanford in the lead 20-19. And it looked like Elway was finally going to get his chance to go to a bowl game. Stanford celebrated Harmon's field goal a little too much, though, and they were called for an excessive celebration penalty, costing them 15 yards on the subsequent kickoff. No worries, just kick it long, make the tackle, ball game over, here we come, bowl game. If only they had kicked it long. Instead, head coach Paul Wiggin called for a squib kick from the 25. That would ultimately prove to be fatal. Harmon's squib kick only went to the Bears' 45-yard line, and that's when the fun started. Here's Cal play-by-play man Joe Starkey with the famous call for KGRO that day.
Rodgers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's gone into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Wait and see what happens. We don't know who won the game. There are flags on the field. We have to see whether or not the flags are against Stanford or Cal. Everybody's milling around on the field. And the Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh, my God. The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football.
And indeed, it was all of those things. But truly, this was a play that should have never been allowed. 1, Cal had only 4 men on the first line instead of the required 5. The Bears should have been penalized 5 yards for illegal alignment. 2nd, the man who received the second lateral, Dwight Garner, was actually tackled, and his knee was on the ground when he lateraled to Richard Rodgers. 3rd, the final lateral to Kevin Moen was not a legal backward lateral. It was a definite illegal forward lateral. But by that point, the Stanford Band was already on the field obstructing the movement of line judge Gordon Reese, and so he was not in position to see if the lateral was backwards or forwards. And then, of course, Moen wound his way through the band into the end zone before crashing into Stanford trombone player Gary Terrell. Terrell became semi-famous for his unwitting role in the play. In fact, his trombone was of immediate interest in the aftermath, with Cal athletic officials offering $100 for his trombone. He declined. A break-in at his college apartment a few weeks later resulted in a trombone being taken, but not the trombone he was carrying on that day. Instead, Terrell's trombone is on display at the College Football Hall of Fame. Terrell was not overly excited to be the focus of so much attention, but he came to appreciate and lean into the fun. Here he is at the unveiling of the statue on Cal's campus, commemorating this play 3 years ago.
There was some meanness directed my way early on, and, a lot of laughter at me, and I realized these people are laughing, having a good time. I might as well have a laugh too. And so that I just basically learned that sportsmanship, humility, self-deprecation are a much better path than bitterness.
Stanford was understandably a bit salty about the play for a while. Between 82 and 84, when Cal held the axe, Stanford displayed a lone screw in its place in their trophy case. When the axe returned to Stanford in 1984, they changed the score on the trophy plate to read Stanford 20, Cal 19. Even now, each time the axe changes hands, the score on the plate gets adjusted. Cal's had the axe in their trophy case the past 4 years. The 132nd edition of the big game is coming up this Saturday. Now, would you believe that on that same day, while all the wackiness was going on in the Cal-Stanford game, there was another game that had controversy and intrigue? This was number 2 SMU and number 9 Arkansas in Dallas. At this point in the season, there were only 2 undefeated teams in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs and the SMU Mustangs, and the Mustangs had their eyes on a national championship. Of course, this is the Pony Express offense with Eric Dickerson and Craig James in the backfield, but the Razorbacks had done a really good job of bottling up that duo on the day, and they led 17-10 late in the fourth. SMU had the football, and they benefited from a controversial call and a little home cooking, you might say. ABC's Keith Jackson had the call for this game, and he did not like the call one bit.
Goes McElhenney on a straight drop. He's going deep again, and it is incomplete. Penalty flag is thrown. I'll tell you, that one could go either way. That one could go either way. Nathan Jones is defending against Jackie Wilson.
That is a very, very questionable call.
That's a bad call. That's a bad call. I don't buy that call at all. I don't frankly care who wins the football game, but that is a bad call.
The Mustangs took advantage of the gift, and they scored the touchdown they needed a few plays later. Now it was decision time for SMU coach Bobby Collins. With under 3 minutes to play, who knew if they'd get the ball back? Go for 2 and glory, or settle for the 1 and play it safe? Collins played it safe and kicked the PAT. In all fairness, this is long before analytics and strength of schedule and crunching of numbers. You had the football media voting in the AP poll and the coaches voting in the coaches poll. So playing it safe may have worked out if other things had happened. And of course, there is no guarantee that even if you go for 2 that you're going to get it, right? We'll add to that the Mustangs did get a 52-yard field goal try in the final seconds of this one, and if that had gone through the uprights, well, Collins' decision would not have been questioned at all. But the kick did not go through the uprights, and the game ended in a 17-17 tie, and the pollsters punished them. Now, was it because of the tie, or because they benefited from a bad call to get there? When the next poll came out, Penn State and Nebraska leapfrogged SMU, dropping the Mustangs to 4th, despite the fact that neither Penn State nor the Cornhuskers played that week. So, if you play out the string, Collins goes for 2. They get it. They win 18-17 to remain undefeated, stay at number 2 in the polls. They still play in the Cotton Bowl and beat number 6 Pitt. Penn State moves up no higher than number 3. They still play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and win. But instead of Penn State winning the consensus national title, they only move up to number 2. SMU, as the only remaining undefeated in the country, would be number 1, and at the very least, shared the national title, if not been the consensus winners all by themselves. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Snow globes were invented by mistake. Initially, Irwin Persey had been asked to improve lighting in surgical rooms. Light bulbs at that point in time did not produce much light. He tried infusing bulbs with water to magnify the light, and then he started adding flakes to enhance the magnification. Metal flakes sank, but when he tried semolina flakes, they floated and then reminded him of snow. He added a tiny church to the globe, and voila, the first snow globe. That's it for today, but of course I'll be back tomorrow with another This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.